Coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News. It was another busy week in Swift Current Provincial Court with a number of high-profile cases on the docket. A brief discussion behind closed doors took place on Tuesday morning at Court of Queen's bench between the legal counsel, the Crown, and the judge in the case of Jerry Chu of Herbert. The Swift Current Airport was the place to be for an afternoon air show, as Brent Handy, a former Canadian Forces snowbird pilot, performed for the crowd. Thanks for joining us here today. A Herbert man charged with manslaughter will appear before the judge in federal court next month. We have more in today's top story. A brief discussion behind closed doors took place on Tuesday morning at Court of Queen's bench between the legal counsel, the Crown, and the judge in the case of Jerry Chu of Herbert. 27-year-old Chu is charged with one count of manslaughter in the death of 79-year-old Henry Jin, also of Herbert, changed from the original second-degree murder charge. One count of break and enter, robbery of the victim's home, one count of willfully attempting to obstruct justice, and one count of interfering with the human remains of the victim. As witness testimony already occurred in March and only one day is booked in Queen's Bench Court on June the 18th, sentencing will likely occur that day for Jerry Chu. The case dates back to 2013, when the victim Henry Jin was reported missing by family and friends, with his body later discovered approximately 10 kilometers south of Morse. Jerry Chu is the lone suspect in the case and has been in custody since his arrest in September of 2013. Dangerous driving charges were just one of the many cases on the Swift Current Provincial Court docket this week. We bring you more in this report. It was another busy week in Swift Current Provincial Court with a number of high-profile cases on the docket. The case involving 31-year-old Michael Chichula, a former Swift Current RCMP constable, has been adjourned until June 22nd, with discussion between the Crown and the defense for possible dates for a preliminary trial on October 21st and 22nd. Chichula was arrested in Swift Current on January 19th and charged at that time with 2 counts of drug trafficking for cocaine and ecstasy. The arrest and charges came about after an extensive investigation by the Moose Jaw Police Service and the RCMP F Division Major Crime Unit, including an internal code of conduct investigation, with the drug trafficking occurring in the Greater Toronto Area. Meanwhile, the case against a 36-year-old Gull Lake man who gave marijuana-laced cookies to a 20-month-old boy has been adjourned until June the 1st, as the defense is working towards a resolution with the Crown. The accused, who's charged with a string of criminal charges, including criminal negligence causing bodily harm, cannot be named in order to protect the identity of the child victim. In other court news, 25-year-old Christopher Ray of Swift Current appeared before the judge, facing dangerous driving charges. Ray was caught speeding down the number 1 highway on March 24th, heading east of Swift Current. According to the RCMP radar, the vehicle was clocked at a speed of 204 kilometers per hour. His vehicle was impounded for 30 days at that time, and on Monday, by the order of the judge, Ray was instructed to pay a dangerous driving fine of $2,000, $500 for obstruction of justice, after lying to the RCMP on the day of the incident about having a license and his personal identity, and $300 for driving while having his license suspended, for a total fine of $2,800 plus victim service charges. The Swift Current Skyline was filled with aerial maneuvers during a special weekend air show. The Swift Current Airport was the place to be for an afternoon air show, as Brent Handy, a former Canadian Forces snowbird pilot, performed for the crowd. The event was filled with an array of aerobatic maneuvers and heart-stopping moves, which were pleasing to the crowd.
Oh, when he was doing his spins and the smoke and the whole thing was awesome, because I've never been to one.
It was really good. We enjoyed it, especially Shay. Used to go to the one in Moose Jaw years ago. And this year, I think there's one more in Saskatoon for the last year, so we're planning on going to that.
Performing approximately 8 shows per year, Handy says it keeps him busy with his day job at the Moose Jaw Air Base, while following through on his dream of flying in this classic plane.
It's called a Pit Special. It's a S2B model, and it's a certified airplane built in 1986. But I just lucked into finding the right one, and it's in great shape. It was been flown by some really interesting folks down in the airshow scene in southwestern U.S. and California. And I picked it up last year. I trained with a fellow by the name of Wayne Handley, who was basically the king of the airshow scene for about 20 years, undisputed, I would say. And so it was a real privilege for me to get to fly with him. And I spent a couple weeks, three weeks with him down in California, and tried to sponge up as much of his tricks of the trade that I could.
And he adds that coming up with breathtaking aerial maneuvers is something he's enjoyed working on over the years, and enjoys the crowd's response from each show.
I've been flying for 21 years, and I was always aiming to be a jet pilot. I thought flying fighter jets would be the ultimate, and I got that experience. I'm grateful for it. It was amazing. But for just pure hands and feet love of flying, you can't beat an airplane like this.
And as Handy took time out to meet the local crowd, aspiring pilots like Josh Kerr of Hodgeville had the chance to check out the plane in more detail.
I loved it. Great stuff. That's I wish I could do that. That'd be great. Yeah, I got my glider's license here this last summer through the cadets, actually. I spent 6 weeks out of the summer in Gimli, Manitoba, taking the glider's license. So once I left, I came out with a license, and I got accepted to the Power Pilot Scholarship here through the cadets again.
Brent Handy will be busy throughout the summer at various air shows, including his next scheduled stop at the Springbank Air Show in Calgary. Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at MyLocalTV.ca. And be sure to follow us on a range of social media. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.